Now, okay, so we chatted a while ago, or depending on what person hears this, on community building, finding your idea, and what's the current state of products everywhere. And so today, I wanted to talk to you about an interesting idea that's related to communities, and it's about the argument between no code and code.
Okay.
So
So what? Yeah.
we continue.
What?
No, no,
No code versus code. What's the problem, or
it's
what's the
about
tension?
what it is. It's a war in a way.
Is
It's
it?
about we're pretending this is a war to like give a better insight to what we're trying to make. Let's pretend this is a war, and let's say one side is no code, and another
What side
country.
are you?
Mm, I'm
I
not
guess
sure
you would
yet.
be no code. I think you would
Yeah.
be have to be no code because I'm a software engineer, so I come from the code background.
Okay. So
So
let's pretend there are two countries. There's no code and there's
yeah.
code, and there's a middle country who they're both fighting for to get to take over, and that country is called MVP, like a product MVP. Let's imagine like that. Okay, in that case, it's a war. They're fighting on who gets to build that product on what.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. I got you.
Okay, um,
I think you would win.
you think I would win? Okay, let's see.
Yeah, you would be able to move faster. You would be more agile. You'd be more nimble. You'd be able to iterate more quickly on the concepts. Uh, it would be far less costly, if not entirely free, outside of your time, and you wouldn't need to know very complex or somewhat complex technical things to get the outcomes that you want. So,
No, it's we'll see who
yeah,
wins. I'll have a poll at the end of the episode to see what people prefer. So that's
yeah, yeah.
nice.
But
Okay.
it's not talking. Yeah, that's supporting your cause.
Hmm.
Um, but from a coding perspective, and after being a software engineer for 20 something years, um, there's something very elegant about software. And if you're going to build something fairly large, ultimately you're going to have to decompose those no code pieces into things that you can actually maintain and probably write yourself. And that's only because not just there's going to be some technical overhead that you're going to want to remove long term, but also financial. It is far cheaper long term for you to build your own infrastructure, especially when you have very, very exacting use cases, as opposed to borrowing off the shelf APIs and services, which are very great to get you started, but usually are very expensive over time. And so I'll give you an example, even in Yen's project lifecycle over the last 3 or 4 years, to prove the concept of a very quickly, a very capable community platform. I took off the shelf components and wrote no original code, used no code, low code things to
Yay!
validate the concept. But then very quickly after validation, uh, went the next step, building a little bit more of a repeatable infrastructure using some large, kind of very well known service APIs. Those things cost me about $500-600 a month,
A
which is
month.
that's not cheap. That's not cheap. And I got a discount. I got a startup discount for $250 for kind of our more
So
our kind of our
you're telling me that
main messaging.
an average person is paying 850 for that a month?
Well,
That's
no, no. So I'm building a product. I went from no code, low code, free stuff.
fine.
The
All
next
right.
iteration was about a $500-600 a month API to power the back end of, and now I've actually ripped all that out. And the third or fourth iteration of the product is us actually going from bare metal and building on a massive kind of monolithic architecture, which is all original code. So now what you've seen in the process over the last couple of years is an iterative one where I started with very cheap solutions, things that I could do very quickly to prove the concept, to validate, to create some resonation with the community. And then I continued to mature the technology platform as we continued to validate and as we gained momentum and proved it out. But this product is very complex. It's a very complex product with multi dimensions, multi users, multi tenant. It needs to be universally accessible on any bandwidth, around the world. It's very exacting in terms of how we've architected it. So it's not a simple product, and so you need custom code for that. But I think for many other products that are much more simple, you could go straight to code and be just as effective, especially if you know what you're trying to build. So that's not a very good argument for code, honestly, because I don't really believe in doing straight code on anything anymore, unless you're doing honestly, actually, no, I don't think I agree with it at all. Even as a hardcore software developer, I think you should always use no code, low code to start. So maybe this exercise was totally defeating because I just totally shot myself in the face and you won the war.
Okay, so let's have this. Let's both prepare a small argument on the differences why I want to take over the country called MVP, or why you would want to take over the country called MVP. It's the easiest way to explain what I'm trying to say here. So
Okay.
excuse me for trying to give an example of a war, but I think so.
No.
I put a poll, and by the time we finish giving the argument, the poll should have a few 10 decent votes. I kept a poll in the chat for Twitter post if you want to check it out. Though the question I asked is no code or code. So, but I'll turn my argument first. So I think no code would win over a war with code because the three main reasons. The number one reason is the community. I think no code has a really strong and vibrant community and resources out there. So I think that would take one way. Why if it was ever a physical war? I'm sorry. I'm trying to imagine that. Okay, I'm sorry. So it's a bit funny if you think about it, a war over code and no code. No, if you
Right.
ever
That's why it's kind of silly. It's like
yeah,
I don't see them as competing forces. I see them as complementary tactics.
you
I
would
think
it for
anyone.
you would it for no code.
Hmm?
You would it for no code.
Yeah, I voted for no code.
Hmm. Okay, so then maybe we just fight. I
Because
could
here's
be
the thing. I like this. This is an interesting intellectual exercise. But the reality is, as an entrepreneur, the answer is whatever it takes to survive. Because that's what matters. It doesn't matter if you're coding the product 100% uniquely or if you're using off the shelf no code, low code tools. If you survive and live another day, you've made the right decision. That's what it really comes down to.
if it's in that case, then I think I can agree with you. The code would code and no code. It would over. I'm gonna go from a war. I'm just gonna go to like a what do you call it? A debate. It's more. I don't want to laugh the entire episode. So let's say in this case, I think no code and code you can't really compare them both. Because they both have different cases. This is my own view. I switch my view now. I'm on the opposite side first. Let's say this way. I don't think you can honestly differentiate no code and code. No code wood is honestly really amazing and a point where one the community. Number two, the resources out there, and number three is well, I'll let someone else say number two. Like I cannot think of an opposite for number three. Though the idea is that I think no code has made it simpler, like part of the website like Software, Notion, Airtable have made things easier for people. But it's not a no code isn't at a point where you could build into people no code, but I don't think no code is at a full point where you could build a full base website that would scale the same way as code. It's possible and you can, but I think eventually you will need to integrate like code or like some low code or some sort of code to make the actual website work more. I'd love to hear
I
your.
disagree. Yeah, I disagree. I've seen no code, low code solutions that are micro SaaS or even like larger than micro SaaS that are full end to end products and businesses and into the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of MRR. Very successful businesses in their own right. And they don't need to change. That's what's so great. But economically, they are paying an arm and a leg for service fees. Again, they don't necessarily have to change, but they could make a lot more money at some point based on just scale and economics, economies of scale. At some point, you're like, well, shit. Instead of paying $500 a month for this back end service, if I wrote it once, I don't ever have to pay it
You don't have to
again.
pay for it
Like,
again, but eventually you would
so,
have to pay for it because a server doesn't work. Even if you build your own server, and this is where my code changes. Code changes with new pack, but not often. But code changes, so changes. There's new ideas, new ways to build that idea. Sometimes there could be new packages. Maybe it's something that doesn't work anymore. And I think that were, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong, and you can disagree with me on that again. Though I feel like I want. I'll let you talk because I feel like you have to say you want to say something.
no, yeah, it wouldn't be fair because I've been a professional software engineer for 23 years. So I have a much larger wealth of knowledge than you have, at least at this point. Um, yeah, I mean, even on your premise that you're the no code low community is like amazing, and as a justification for why it's like, yeah, but I meet people every day who have no fucking idea what this is, and but the coding community, massive. Like if you want to compare, communities, the coding communities,
It's
that would be
amazing.
the clear winner. So like you would lose on that front. Um,
So
but
I
like again, I don't know if these are it's a fun intellectual exercise, but I don't know if it's very useful.
So I would agree with you around last year. Oh, I'm sorry.